Good morning, children. Today we are going to study Chapter 8 The First Empire. The Prevailing Situation. By around 323 BCE, Magadha, the major Indian kingdom of that time, was ruled by a king who was unpopular amongst his people. The kingdom had spread over a vast area, but the rulers were gradually losing control as the people did not have faith in the rulers anymore. Other smaller states were also in a state of despair. Foreign invaders had overrun large sections of the country. Alexander, a very ambitious Greek king, was progressing towards India. Alexander's efforts to conquer India. Alexander entered India through the Hindu Kush mountains. He fought his way through and by 326 BCE he had crossed the Indus River. Here he met the king of Takshashila, which is located near Islamabad, the capital city of modern-day Pakistan. The king welcomed Alexander and extended his generous hospitality to Alexander and his men. He also provided 5,000 troops to help Alexander in his future conquest, notably against King Porus, his neighbor. Alexander confronted the 2,000-strong elephant army of King Porus and was successful in defeating him. He, however, reinstated him and made him his ally. His army had reached near present-day Lahore when for the first time his soldiers refused to obey him. They were tired and exhausted of continuous war over a long stretch. Alexander left the occupied territories on the west of the Indus River under the control of his general Seleucus Nicator and returned to Greece. In 323 BCE, Alexander died at Babylon. The exit of Alexander and the gradual decline of Magadha led to a breaking up of territories held by them. The Mauryan Empire. During this chaotic period, a new leader called Chandragupta Maurya emerged. He became the founder of the first empire of India, the Mauryan Empire. Chanakya, also known as Kautilya, was a teacher in Takshila when Alexander came from the west to annex the surrounding territories. The kings of Takshila and Gandhara became allies of Alexander. Chanakya planned to defeat Alexander and sought help from other kings to unite and fight Alexander. Porus, a king of Punjab, was the only king who challenged Alexander, but he was defeated at the Battle of Hedapes River, known as Jhelum River in India. Chanakya then went further east to Magadha to seek the help of Dhananda, who ruled the vast Nanda Empire, which extended from Bihar and Bengal in the east to Punjab and Sindh in the west. But Dhananda refused to help him. After this incident, Chanakya persuaded his disciple Chandragupta to build an empire that could protect the Indian territories from foreign invasion. Chandragupta, at the age of 20, finally overthrew King Dhananda and took over the reins of the kingdom in 321 BCE. Thus, it was in 321 BCE that Chandragupta Maurya, under the direct patronage of the genius of Chanakya, founded the Maurya dynasty. The reign of Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya's first major challenge was Seleucus Nicator. Seleucus attempted to regain the territories to east of Indus, once held by Alexander, and thus came into conflict with Chandragupta Maurya. In 305 BCE, they fought a battle, and in the peace treaty that was signed, Seleucus conceded all territories to the east of the Indus River to Chandragupta Maurya. The Mauryan Empire now extended over an extremely large area, extending over 50 lakh square kilometers. Gradually, under the able leadership and sound administrative abilities of Chandragupta, assisted by Chanakya, the Mauryan Empire conquered the Trans-Indus region. Under Chandragupta and his successors, both internal and external trade, agriculture and economic activities thrived and expanded across India, thanks to the creation of a single and efficient system of finance, administration and security. It extended in the north along the natural boundaries of the Himalayas and to the east stretching into what is now Assam. To the west is reached beyond the modern Pakistan and some portions of areas of the present-day Afghanistan. The rule of Bindusara. The empire expanded to India's central and southern regions under Emperor Bindusara, the son of Chandragupta, but it excluded a small portion of unexplored tribal and forested regions near Kalinga. The Mauryan Empire had its capital city at Patliputra, near modern-day Patna. Kalinga, which is modern-day Orissa, was earlier part of Magadha Empire but became independent during the rule of King Dhananda. Kalinga had managed to defeat the expansionist designs of both Chandragupta and his son Bindusara. The Reign of Ashoka. Within 7 years of taking over the Mauryan Empire, Ashoka, the son of Bindusara, decided to annex Kalinga. He waged a severe war over Kalinga in 261 BCE. Ashoka was successful in defeating the army of Kalinga, but there was a very heavy loss of life in this war. It is said that 1 lakh people lost their life on both sides, and the waters of the Daya river running next to the battlefield turned red with the blood of those killed. Walking through the battlefield, Emperor Ashoka saw the sorrow and pain of the wounded and the dead. It is said that he was so moved by the sight that he decided that he would not indulge in any more wars and killings. The aftermath of the battle. After the Battle of Kalinga and seeing the plight of the dead and the wounded, Ashoka was emotionally moved. He took it upon himself to spread the message of peaceful coexistence called Dhamma. The highlights of Dhamma were: be kind to everyone, including animals. Treat all human beings, elder and young, with respect. Follow the path of non-violence. Respect all religions. Denounce expensive rituals and live a simple life. He sent out messengers to spread the Dhamma described above. These messengers came to be called Dhamma Mahamatas. These Dhammas were also inscribed on rocks and pillars to ensure that they remained carved for future. Ashoka maintained a large and powerful army to keep the peace and maintain control over the large empire. He expanded friendly relations with states across Asia, Europe, and he sponsored Buddhist missions. He started massive public works building campaign across the country. Over 40 years of peace, harmony, and prosperity made Ashoka one of the most successful and famous monarchs in Indian history. He remains an idealized figure of inspiration in modern India. The edicts of Ashoka. The edicts of Ashoka, set in stone, are found throughout the Indian subcontinent, ranging from Afghanistan in the northwest to Andhra in the south. Ashoka's edicts state in policies and accomplishments, although predominantly written in Prakrit. 2 of them were written in Greek and 1 in both Greek and Arabic. The inscriptions reflect Ashoka's belief in the Buddhist concept of dharma, righteousness, and his efforts to develop the dharma throughout his kingdom. After the Kalinga War, the empire experienced half a century of peace and security under Ashoka's rule. India was a prosperous and stable empire of great economic and military power, whose political influence and trade extended across Western and Central Asia and Europe. Mauryan India also enjoyed an era of social harmony and expansion of the sciences and of knowledge. The Mauryan Administration. The Mauryan Empire was vast, and it was necessary to have a sound administration to manage the people of such a vast kingdom. The need for money for maintaining a huge army and expenditures on the development of state was high. The administration that was organized was believed to be based on the guidance of Chanakya. First, the political setup. The king had the supreme powers. He was advised by his ministers known as Mantri Parishad. The governance of the state had different sections like security, revenue, treasury, etc. These were controlled and managed by persons appointed by the ruler. Second, the provinces. The empire was divided into several provinces. These were under the control of governors, who were princes from the royal family and were called Kumars. The provinces had districts, and district had many villages under them. Third is the judiciary. The king was the supreme judge, although there were lower courts and panchayats at lower levels, and the king himself could also be addressed by a common man for justice. Fourth, revenue collection. Officials were appointed to collect taxes. They were given a fixed salary. Spies were appointed to keep a watch on the performance of the officials. Taxes were collected from farmers, craftspersons, traders, and herders. They were empowered to even punish those who did not pay or disobeyed the rules. Fifth, public works. The king spent a lot of money on development and providing facilities for the people. Roads, wells, and rest houses for travelers were developed. Agriculture prospered and stonework was in great demand. Sixth, religious transformation. Ashoka believed that all religions should be respected and no one should cast any aspersion on anyone's belief and faith. Ashoka's messages helped in spreading of Buddhism to Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, West Asia, and Mediterranean Europe. The Mauryan Empire is considered to be one of the most significant periods in Indian history. This period is also known as the Golden Period of Indian history. The lion capital of Ashoka at Sarnath is now adopted as the emblem of India. The Mauryan Empire was perhaps the largest empire to rule the Indian subcontinent until the arrival of the British. Its decline began 50 years after Ashoka's rule ended, and it dissolved in 185 BCE with the foundation of the Sanga dynasty in Magadha.